With the combine in the rear view mirror and free agency fast approaching, it's time to get back on track with our positional previews. We're talking free agent defensive linemen today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins.
Hello.
And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who make Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every single day, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
It has begun, and we have some work to do. Our work continues here on Locked On NFL Scouting, but the process of cap compliance is well underway. As we saw yesterday, the franchise tag deadline passed. We have player cuts. We have players not getting the franchise tag. There's a lot that's happened, some of which even includes the defensive line free agency group.
Yeah, especially on the interior where we are planning on starting today's conversation, where a couple of big names, or one big name, Justin Madubuike, got the tag. Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins did not. Those guys scheduled to become free agents. Some big money heading to those two guys. So the top of the class is pretty easy to identify here in Chris Jones and Christian Wilkins. And then, of course, Leonard Williams is exciting, but Jones and Wilkins. I mean, can you imagine Chris Jones playing for a different team than the Chiefs?
No.
I have a hard time processing that.
And based on what we've heard about the Chiefs and their long-term outlook with Za'Darius Smith, he may not. Because Kansas City appears to, if they're going to have a big contract, it sounds like they would want to have the big contract be Chris Jones as compared to Za'Darius Smith, and we'll talk about him when we get the corners.
Well, can we just acknowledge that what's complicated about the Za'Darius Smith situation is this knee deal, right? Like, it's a real concern. If he's healthy and there's not that concern, this is a big-ticket player. But obviously the Chiefs, despite the caliber of performance that Snead's had, are apprehensive on the extension here, apparently reportedly willing to take a second-round pick for him, which does, of course, open the door for Chris Jones to return. Doesn't sound like Christian Wilkins is back in Miami.
No, I would expect not. I would expect that market would have to come in significantly lower than what the expected market is, especially when you consider some of the teams that have top spending cap space and their needs on the interior defensive line. Yeah. You think about the Patriots, which Christian's from the New England area.
Is he? Don't do that. Get out of the division,
He's a big Celtics fan. He's a big Celtics
fan. We can't have this.
The Patriots have the second highest operating cap space. They have $88.7 million. They've moved on from Lawrence Guy, Devon Godchaux, maybe a cap.
Barmore and Wilkins, Kyle. We can't have it.
Correct. I agree.
We can't have it.
I agree. The Texans have the fourth most operating cap space of $70 million. They could certainly afford. The Cardinals and Bears each have a need at 56. They are 5th and 6th, tied for fifth. The Detroit Lions have a need.
Oh boy,
maybe not as pressing of a need. You got the development from Ali McNeil, which has been helpful, but they still need. There's a need there for a pass rush interior threat. Yeah. They have 51. They're 7th in the league in operating cap space. The Raiders have 42. Like this market's going to be robust.
You could see why Christian Wilkins hadn't been willing to settle for anything.
And look, had the big breakout. The big question coming into 2023 was the sack production. He played in the system that was schemed rush oriented and gap control. The penetration came this season. He had 9 sacks. He absolutely maximize his opportunities. A massive snap volume taker as well. He's over 80% snap count, like annually for 5 years. So that's two players and a lot of that. I think that's how you justify the dollars, right? Is you consider what most teams do from a rotational perspective.
Yeah.
And it's two contracts that you're filling with that performance.
Yeah.
Now, I do think that the pass rush ceiling is still not as high as some of the other guys in that stratosphere of pay. You think about Quinn Williams and Chris Jones and Aaron Donald and Jeffrey Simmons. Like, I think those guys are all better, like pure pass rushers than Christian is. But
Rundy's really real with Wilkins.
Right. You consider the growth in the cap. You consider the teams, the expansiveness of teams that have significant cap space, that have needs there. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets $25, $26 million per season.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm anticipating as well. Leonard Williams, another big name here. And I know that you and I have had a lot of conversations about what Seattle gave up to get Leonard Williams, and it'd be kind of silly.
Everybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. Is like they're cutting everybody. What are we? We got a few bucks for Leonard Williams, or is this water under the bridge? We're going to let him walk. I think it's kind of a fascinating situation. I think they should try to get him back, but some of their recent decisions sending different messages to us.
Right. I mean, just yesterday it was Quandre Diggs. Jamal Adams is not a surprise. The surprising thing with the Jamal Adams cut for Seattle was that they're not post-June 1sting that. That's so they're taking the bigger cap hit up front to just eat dirt and then get out of the contract as quickly as possible. So I think that kind of paints the picture for what this year is going to be.
Yeah.
For Seattle. I mean, that individual decision. So now you foil that with, okay, yeah, we sent draft capital for Leonard Williams, but Leonard Williams is an older interior defensive lineman that's probably going to be, what? Even at this stage of his career, is probably at least $10 million per season on average for the AV, right?
I would think so, yeah.
His last contract was a lot bigger than that, but that's still kind of the stratosphere you'd expect him in. I don't think that's going to connect. So I think he is going to be out on the market for a team that wants a pretty versatile, even if he is slowing down a little bit. He's my second and my third best available on the market behind Chris Jones and Christian Wilkins. Williams.
Got some nose tackles here. Grover Stewart from the Colts, Tart from, I guess, the Texans, right? It's kind of finished the season.
Coffee there.
Really weird season. Daquan Jones is a stud.
Reader.
DJ Reader. Did I not say his name?
Injury, but
yeah. I mean, even if you want to go like bargain bin nose tackles, like Ashawn Robinson, Sebastian Joseph Day, there's some guys here. Raekwon Davis. I don't know how big of a fan you are of him, but like thumbs down from Kyle Crabbs here on the YouTube channel.
Jonathan Hankins. You want to go the Jonathan Hankins.
There's names.
Derek Nottie. Some opportunities. Is it Fatu Kasi? You want to play him? He just got cut by the Jaguars.
Well, Lawrence Guy, it's kind of what he's been, a guy that does that for a long time.
And those are the kinds of Fatu Kasi and Lawrence Guy being new additions to this group, I think are really attractive for some of the teams that maybe have some budgetary spending that they need to be mindful of. And if they're going to be losing players, teams like both yours and mine.
Yeah.
Where if you're cut off a contract, you're not into the compensatory pick formula, right? So not only can you sign anywhere right now because you were not an expiring contract, you were cut from your contract, but there's also, we don't have the other ramifications that usually come from spending. So teams that are cash strapped, maybe they want to be mindful of, can we infuse extra draft picks back from compensatory formula standpoint? Do we want to address a need and not have to deal with the open market and just get a guy locked in that's going to be a low contract figure? Like those guys, I think, are really attractive for competitive teams on short-term, one-year bridge type contracts.
Some interior rush players as well. Sheldon Rankins is out there. Quentin Jefferson, Shelby Haris, who I like a ton. Bilal Nichols, Adam Butler.
Mm-hmm.
Even Solomon Thomas, who's been a guy that reduces inside and rushes. I think you got some guy, like, it's a good group. It's a good group of players that are out there.
Is it worth mentioning Denico Autry as a potential reduce guy too? I know that like there's an edge defensive line categorization semantics there, but that's another guy that comes to my mind as far as like a guy that can rush on the inside.
Yeah, it's a good call out.
What are you doing with Javon Kinlaw? I know we're up against it here, but like that's the one name we haven't mentioned yet that like I don't think
Probably
he's
going to let somebody else do it.
Right.
He got some flashes. He can't play the run.
Big contract. Yeah.
Yeah. That's somebody else's deal, in my opinion.
He's honestly of all the names we mentioned on my personal board, I have him down as I guess a quality depth player, but he's the lowest ranked one I've got.
Yeah.
Which just the journey for a first round pick who came into the league with all this potential, but you knew it was going to not be a guaranteed thing, that it was going to be realized. I think it's a nice buy low opportunity for somebody, but you got to hope you get the fire lit up underneath them.
I totally agree. All right, we're going to talk defensive ends edge group here in just a second, so be sure to stick with us. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. They've also got football's futures, hockey, whatever sports you're into. FanDuel has some great action to check out, and this new deal is incredible. Again, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
I do have some bad news for you.
Oh, you have bad. I had something to lead the segment. Now you do too as well.
Go ahead. You do yours. I'll do mine after.
I had a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, what do you call a man who doesn't have kids but likes to tell dad jokes?
I don't know.
A faux pas.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
No, that was good. That was a good dad joke.
My bad news was not that you had a bad joke in the chamber. It was that Ross Jackson's going to be disappointed with you.
For what?
You started to read during the...
No, I saw the bumper. I did it during the bumper video.
He said, don't do it during the bumper. Wait till after the bumper's over.
All right, Ross.
So just...
I thought I could do it when the bumper... I thought as long as the bumper video started, I could do the ad read.
So...
I'll try to get better on the next one.
Ross did praise us for getting back on track on yesterday's second half of mock draft.
You never know if Ross is going to listen or not.
I think he always does.
You do? You think he's out there listening to 30-something pods a day? I don't think so. No way.
A man hustles.
Yeah, but that's 8 hours. That's 10 hours of programming.
This will be the ultimate litmus test. If he texts us today,
we'll see.
Hey, Ross. All right.
Hey.
Edge group. I like this edge group. I think there's a lot of opportunity with this edge group. I don't think it's as top heavy as the interior defensive line, where obviously you have perhaps the best player of any player to hit the market in Chris Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Christian Wilkins. I think Christian Wilkins is probably comparable to Danielle Hunter as the top edge guy. So you're just missing that piece above it. And then the other really talented names got pulled off with the franchise tag, with Josh Allen with the Jaguars and Brian Burns with the Panthers.
Credit the Panthers for not just letting Brian Burns walk.
Who else are you paying right now?
It's a hard.
You told
no. That's the hard part of the Panthers is they don't have a ton of cap space, and they also don't have a ton of good players. Right? Like what is going on here?
You have a quarterback on a rookie deal. You told this man when you declined 2 first-round picks plus for him what you thought he was worth at the time, and now you're going to pinch pennies on him?
You feel like maybe Brian Burns would have loved the opportunity to go somewhere else?
Yes, he would have.
Right.
I would have.
Like, please, God, just let me hit the market. Let me go get my 6-year, $130 million contract and not have to deal with whatever this has been for the last 3 years.
Right. So
Danielle Hunter, the premier name here, coming off a huge season.
Definitely the premier name here.
Very fascinated to see what happens with him. Boy, oh boy, would the Vikings be in trouble with their edge rush if he's not back. And I'm pretty sure, isn't Wanham a free agent as well?
Yeah, I was just gonna say they have a few other expiring contracts on that defense.
And Davenport, who I don't know, did he play 10 snaps last year? But like,
yeah, they don't worry, they back ended it all with void years.
Yeah, smart. You learn nothing. Did you watch him with the Saints? Did you learn a thing? Good Lord.
Oh, he ghosted you this year like he ghosted our podcast pre-draft?
Yeah. only player that's ever ghosted us, friggin' Marcus Davenport. And I put so much work into that interview. So much work.
We had good questions lined up. That's why I hurt, right?
Right. And he's the only one that's ever done it.
Right.
Ever.
Right. And we had,
and it was before that Senior Bowl too. Like before the combine, everybody knew about him. Like, wait, like, brother, you kidding me?
We've had some great guests over the year, including Brian Burns, outstanding guest on the show.
Good call.
Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, very good.
But Marcus was the one that got away.
Marcus, yeah.
So he's part of this free agent group, but he's not on my list of players I would have like a strong appetite for wanting to invest heavily in. But there are a few of those players. What's interesting is the edge group's kind of the mercenary position right now, isn't it? Get a lot of vets on one-year deals. Za'Darius Smith just did that with the Browns. Was a rousing success. Jadeveon Clowney just did that with the Ravens. Was a rousing success. Leonard Floyd just did that with the Bills. Fair to say he was their best pass rusher this past year?
I might say it's Ed Oliver, but Leonard.
As far as the edge.
Oh, gosh. He hid 10.5 sacks as a career high, and it was like by far the lowest amount of snaps he's ever played. So he's typically like an 80% guy. He plays like 60% for the Bills.
Yeah, Davenport was on a mercenary contract. Yannick Ngakoue, 1 year, $10 million mercenary contract.
Not so good.
Little different circumstances as far as being traded, but was on a rental as effectively a mercenary. So I think it's a really interesting group because of that.
I feel like guys like Bryce Huff and Jonathan Greenard are really attractive. I know Danielle Hunter's the big name, huge production last year, but like there's some youth and some upside here with Greenard and Bryce Huff, who have really emerged over the last couple of seasons with their pass rushing skill sets. I'm sure both the Texans and Jets would love to have them back, but like if you're going to go in, those would be some names that would be attractive to me.
So I think Greenard gets the bigger contract, and it sounds like Houston is going to try to get an extension done and get him back. But that's more of an every down player, where Bryce Huff is more of a designated pass rusher situation, not a situational player, but like Greenard's a more complete player. And I think that'll be reflective with the snap percentage he continues to take and the success that he has on all of those snaps versus Huff might be the most dynamic edge rusher on the market. And there's certainly going to be a great value in getting him under contract. And he's was 7th round pick or UDFA out of Memphis.
Huff? Oh gosh. I don't think he wasn't drafted. I think he's UDFA.
UDFA. Yeah. So my man's going to want to maximize this opportunity coming off the season that he just had with the Jets and has every right to do so.
Yeah.
But probably not going to be back with the Jets when you consider the other investments that they've made in the defensive line, and particularly the pass rush group. Josh Uche, kind of the same thing, just not as successful of a season. His big season was the year prior in 2022.
Yeah, snaps. He hasn't played a ton of snaps, right? Run defense isn't there. So, DPR for sure.
Yeah, but if you fell out of the Patriots this year, I'm not going to hold it against you. They're a catastrophe from top to bottom.
A couple guys I really like in this group, Mike Danna from the Chiefs. I think he's become such a solid player, man. Just that terrific run defender, rushes through his lanes. I'm a big fan. Dorance Armstrong with the Cowboys, I feel like he's going to hit the market. He's been productive, and he's kind of been the third guy there. I'd be interested to invest in him.
They got Sam Williams kind of waiting to take that spot over. Makes a lot of sense for them to segue out of Dorance Armstrong, but a nice player, I agree.
You mentioned Denico Autry already. I like Andrew Van Ginkel from the Dolphins a ton. I'm sure they would like to have him back, but like versatile player. I'm a big fan of AVG. Let's get him and Wilkins the heck out of Miami if we can.
He will be back.
No. Let's somebody come in, swoop in, give him the big money.
Anthony Jennings.
You a fan?
I like him for what he is. It's that same model long-armed, heavy-handed, I guess kind of I don't want to call him slow twitch, but he's not the most twitchy, but he's got good football IQ. He's kind of the C athlete version of Van Ginkel because they've moved him around a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you could do a lot worse as far as like an early down rotational type of guy.
He's going to the Vikings for sure, right?
Oh, B-Flow gonna
right. Get the jerseys, Vikings fans. Get Anthony Jennings jersey for sure.
We mentioned Chase Young. We haven't really gotten to Chase Young. He's a wild card to me in this group. If there's a player that deserved to get the Marcus Davenport contract from last year that Minnesota 100%. Gave it, it's Chase Young, right?
Yeah. 100%. What are you doing with
Go ahead.
What are you doing with a guy like Darrell Taylor, who has the last 3 seasons he has 20
agent, right?
He's 21 and a half sacks over the last 3 years.
You're re-signing him if you're Seattle.
Because you're getting Nwosu back. You got Boye Mafe. I mean, I don't know.
Okay. How much is Darrell Taylor going to cost? If Darrell Taylor hits the market, and I'll be honest, I didn't put him on my board because he's a restricted free agent. They're just going to bring him back. They're going to tender him for original round tender for $4 million or whatever it is, and we're going to move on with our lives.
Is he an unrestricted free agent? Or
no, he's
restricted.
Yes,
that's right. Did he get injured his first season? Didn't get an accrued season.
I think so.
Yeah, that's what happened there. Good call.
So if he were on the open market, he'd probably be between Za'Darius Smith and Jonathan Greenard for me. Like he'd be a tier 3 fringe adequate / quality starter type player that you give a lot of money to. But because they just got this back pocket reverse Uno card, they're just going to keep his services for super cheap. You know who I like, as he dealt with some injuries this past year, but I think actually showed some nice flashes and was a pretty respectable pass rush guy in the 3 seasons before that as a rotational guy? He plays in your city.
Plays in Buffalo?
No.
Oh, in Charlotte. Oh, yeah. You're Marquise Haynes. That's your big Marquise Haynes guy, yeah.
Marquise Haynes Sr. Like, if you're going to sign an edge rusher for a 1 year, $2.5, $3 million contract, he can go. And he had 5 sacks in 2022. He dealt with injuries coming into the season, and then he had I think it was a concussion in December that ended the season early. But I'm watching Carolina. I'm like, dude, this dude pops a little. He pops more than Yetur Gross-Matos, who's another expiring contract. And I know that's a low bar to clear from a pass rush perspective. But I mean, he flew around a little bit. So I really liked him as like a cheap vet option for a team that might need that.
All right. I have one more player that I'll shout out here in just a second on the other side of it. And we're going to talk about some possible team fits as well. So be sure to stick with us.
The bumper.
I got it. Patience, drive, and patience. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Bumper threw off your cadence, huh?
You know what? I think I said patience, drive, and patience. It's passion. Yeah. Passion's an important word there.
This is the bumper.
I know, mates. There's people that want you to do the ad reads. This is a big moment for them. Big moment for them.
Who's your last name?
Clelin Ferrel.
I got another name too.
Well, we can do that. Clelin Ferrel, if you can detach yourself from him being the number 4 pick in the 2019 NFL draft, you can appreciate that he's a pretty decent player, right? Like it's not his fault that he was a number 4 pick, but I think he's become like a solid run defender, compression style. He's got some length about him. He's got some athleticism. as a rotational third, fourth guy, Ferrel's a guy that intrigues me.
So my guy's kind of built the same way as Clelin. The productions last year was actually relatively close to being the same. It's just my guy was not a starter last year. Tyquan Lewis with the Colts.
Yeah, he's good. Good call out. Yeah, I watched him.
And
why wouldn't he be back with the Colts? But go ahead.
I'm glad you watched him because, like, as we're getting into team fits, and I think about the body types that Buffalo has as outgoing edge guys, I'd be really annoyed if you got Tyquan Lewis because I think he'd be a really good stylistic fit, and he's not going to be expensive.
Why won't he be expensive?
Because over the last 3, he's never played 500 snaps in a season.
PFF projects him $6 million average AAV. They say 2 years, $12 million, $6 million guaranteed gets you Tyquan Lewis.
It feels about right, but we've also gone through a lot of names.
Yeah, there's a ton.
You know, so like who's going to get left at the ball? And a guy who played in 15 games in 2021 and 2022 combined, missed half the season the 2 years prior to this year where he played 436 snaps in 17 games, might be a guy that doesn't have that kind of robust market. I think the middle class will get hurt by this.
Tape's good with Tyquan Lewis, and I remember him coming out of Ohio State, and one of my concerns with him was like play strength and like run defense. He's gotten stronger. Like
not anymore.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like
he's really good at it.
And we've talked to a lot of people in NFL circles and scouting and that type of thing, and they'll always tell you that guys can get stronger, right? Like you can get stronger. I think that happened with Lewis. I think he found the weight room and really corrected a lot of my concerns from his time at Ohio State. But yeah, he's one of my favorite free agents. If the Colts let him get away, I don't know why they would, but you can see it happening.
So that's the tough part to reconcile with the draft, right? Is it's like you're right, guys can get stronger, but how do you quantify the valuation of that with an unknown? So when we talk about risk assessments and doing evaluations through the lens of a risk assessment, it helps to paint the picture, but it also makes it very difficult to be like, this is where you should value this player because you don't know, and you don't know how long it's going to take if it does happen.
And how many times have you seen, especially defensive linemen, take to year 3? Sometimes
and offensive linemen.
Yeah, it takes a little time, right? So like if you're looking for immediate returns, probably not going to get them, right away. I mean, I think Tyquan Lewis is a great example of that. Yeah. I think Ed Oliver is a great example of that, where super athletic, plays nose tackle at Houston, right? In like an eagle front. Now he's all of a sudden a penetration style 3, and he always had to develop his pass rush moves. It took him some time.
How about Jonathan Greenard as another example of that?
A 3rd-round pick right out of Florida.
Massive boom this year, 12.5 sacks, 22 quarterback hits in year 4, his 4th year. He had 10.5 sacks the 3 seasons combined before that. Now he had 8 in 2021. But nevertheless, we doubled our career sack total.
All right, we want to talk a little bit about some team fits and possible team fits and landing spots, those types of things. The biggest names here are Christian Wilkins, Danielle Hunter, Chris Jones. Chris Jones, I think, is going to be a Chief.
I agree. So it almost feels anticlimactic because it's like, oh, Chris Jones is going to test the market, but they're probably going to figure this out, right?
No, I mean, Chris Jones got it made, man. He's winning Super Bowls, getting playoff checks.
What was the report on social that kind of the general impression was that if their dollar amount came in the high 20s, Chris would probably take it and get it done. He himself said at the Super Bowl parade that he's not leaving, right?
Right.
It just feels like there's so much smoke trending towards like, okay, this doesn't have to be a $33 million a year contract for the Chiefs to bring him back. And that's the luxury of being the Chiefs.
Yeah. Sounds to me like Christian Wilkins is either a Patriot or a Texan.
I would put the Bears on that short list.
Yeah. It's cold there, and he's not from there.
Well, it's just tough with the Bears. It's like, okay, how much leeway to the 2 guys that you spent day 2 picks on last year in the NFL draft?
They're not stopping me. Guys. With the money that they have in the year that's expected from them, it's not stopping me. Not a chance.
Right. And they dropped the bag on Tremaine Edmonds last year, so they're not afraid to spend on a big top of market player.
Yeah. And they've already spent on Montez Sweat.
I would put the Texans in first because of their competitive window and their room to spend. I would probably put New England 2 because they have the most cap space out of the teams and because it's home for Christian. And you know he'd probably love to kind of stick the knife in Miami twice a year and play him.
And lose. I mean, okay. Yo, you might have a couple of plays, but congrats on being 6'11". He certainly
loves sticking the knife in Buffalo twice a year and losing.
He's kept on reaching and grabbing every time. Every chance he had.
Okay.
Every chance.
Right. So that's Christian Wilkins.
Okay. Where's Danielle Hunter going? That's a big name. The Commanders got all the cap space in the world and all the possible needs in the world on the edge.
Why would anybody sign Danielle Hunter? Why would anybody sign with the Commanders? I mean,
because they can overpay
in DC or Virginia, I guess. I don't know.
Where's he go? Okay, that's a logical landing spot if Danielle Hunter wants it, right? Like, where's he going? Cardinals. Cardinals got to get some D linemen, man. They got $57 million in space.
They kind of have a history of bringing like Chandler Jones,
brother. Yes, they gave 3 years, $30 million to Jordan Phillips, Kyle Crabbs. That happened.
I don't think the Titans have a lot of cap space. Don't think that's a super logical one just because of they're going back to square one. They've effectively said it, right? The Raiders.
Yeah.
Again, I know Kuntz had a nice year this year, but they've got cap space. They need to get better in the trenches. You got to play Mahomes and Herbert twice a year each. Like that might be a spot where you would want to invest.
Tennessee's sitting at $76 million in cap space and can use some edge.
But why would they give for Marcus Davenport in this, or not Marcus Davenport, for Danielle Hunter at this stage in his career? Why would they pay a big money contract to a vet guy? It doesn't feel like there's an alignment of where the team is at with where the player's at.
I'm mostly highlighting cap space and need, but okay. I think that's fair.
What do you think the Eagles are the Eagles gonna be players for anybody? With the Hassan Reddick kind of tease, they got some space. You can move on from Reddick, and if you get a trade partner, you can save like 14.
You got Nolan Smith, who you drafted last year, right? That was a first-round pick.
Yep.
I'm sure you want to unlock that a little bit. You got Josh Sweat. Brandon Graham, have we heard what?
Sounds like he's coming back on a one-year deal.
And he's not going to play for another team besides the Eagles.
Right.
Okay, so worst case scenario, you have Smith, Sweat, and Graham as your top 3 edge rushers in Philly. I mean, that doesn't stop me from getting some more, but Derek Barnett's another weird player here where they like got rid of him. He was good for Houston down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, well, who are you, Derek Barnett? What's your plan here?
What about give me your best call out for Leonard Floyd?
He's going to take a 1 year, $8 million deal from somebody.
Post June 1st, probably.
Why would you say that? Oh, because he waited last year?
Yeah, because he waited last year and more money is going to open up for more teams.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. He wants to play for a contender and he wants to play for a good team that's going to pay him a lot of money. That he's come out and said that. So yeah, I think he could wait that out.
Money opening up that would allow him to come back.
No, it's very unlikely to me. I think he's part of their comp pick bingo if they can.
Got it.
Him and Gabe Davis. Who wants Gabe Davis? Give him the big money. $20 million a season. Please, God.
Any other call-outs, Fitz, that you want to point to? Shaq Barrett, we feel like we didn't talk a lot on Shaq Barrett.
Yeah, because he's cut, right?
Yep.
Did you get a chance to watch any of his tape? You still got a little something to him?
You could tell the things that made Shaq as impactful early in his Tampa career they're kind of going away on him a little bit. And he was never the most long type of player, but he's still really crafty. If you told me he was going to be somebody's designated pass rusher on 3rd and longs,
yeah,
I think he could have Kind of like late stage Melvin Ingram is kind of where I'm at with Shaq Barrett.
Maybe he'll find someone to latch on.
If you could sign one for your team, who would you want it to be within the realistic budget that you have?
Carl Lawson.
Carl Lawson?
Yeah, on the edge. My number one choice would be to bring back Daquan Jones, if that matters. But Carl Lawson's on my short list. Shelby Haris is on my short list. Clelin Ferrel's on my short list.
We didn't really get into like the expected dollars for the nose tackles, but I think that's an interesting talking point as well. Where you've got Reader
10-11, I think, right?
Yeah, but like Reader's getting a little older, coming off of an injury. Grover Stewart, I think, was at $10 million per on his last one. He's getting a little older.
Spielberger says 15 and a quarter a season for Reader.
I cannot imagine. But
that's a
like,
lot.
what did Michael Pierce just get? Michael Pierce just signed an extension in December with the Ravens.
Was
it 7.5?
I can check now that my computer is functional. I can actually look something up while we're talking.
Great.
2 years, $7.5 million. That was pretty much
Total.
nothing. Yeah, at age 31.
Right. So that's for me, I think, where the nose tackle conversation does get a little interesting. We'll see. We'll see. That's going to do it for us here on the defensive line conversation. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He's John Marino. We are Locked On NFL Scouting. I hope you guys appreciate this conversation. We got a linebacker conversation coming your way tomorrow, so look forward to that. We'll see you then on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We're out of here. Peace.